Connecting.
Yeah, Ian is here.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. Great to see some of you here already at 11:29. So 1 minute to go. So let's wait a little bit more.
Ezra, good morning. And Tiana. Hello, Tiana. And Ian, good morning. And Hardish. All of our friends are here. Timothy. Hello, Edward.
Fantastic. So 11:30. So let's start our webinar then. So good morning, everyone. I am Renata Simeone, Customer Success Manager at ShoNet, and I'm really happy to welcome you all here. It's great to see the virtual house full today. So, as you know, this session is all about youth program management in action, and we are pleased to be joined by Tom Cavalot, Head of Youth Work at One YMCA, one of our long-standing clients. So, Tom, thank you very much for your time today.
Hi, everyone.
Just a few quick notes before we dive in. So we'll be dropping a quick survey in the chat shortly. So it would mean a lot if you could take a few moments to fill it out at the end of the session, as it helps us make sure our future webinars are as relevant and useful to you as possible. Also, we are very proud to hosting this session in partnership with Salesforce, and we are joined today by Tayani Stefani, nonprofit account executive at Salesforce. And at the end of the session, we'll open the microphone for questions, and she will be available there. So feel free to join the conversation and share your thoughts there. Here's a quick look at what is coming up. Let me just share my screen. All right. So I will hand over in just a moment for a few words from Clyde Williams, our director here at ShoNet. Then we'll move into the main presentation from Tom, and we will wrap up with a QA session joined by Tom, Clyde Bisham, our delivery director, and Tayana. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to hand over to Clyde to get us started. So Clyde, over to you.
Thank you very much, Renata. And good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for choosing to spend some time with us this morning. I'm Clyde Williams. I'm the director of ShoNet. And our journey with One YMCA started about 4 years ago when they came to us asking for help around fundraising and volunteering. At the same time, we were actually running a webinar by Tottenham Hotspur Foundation, and the work we were doing there around program management. And Sarah Ibanja, the chief executive, she actually was very good at kind of explaining how Salesforce had actually helped them in managing their programs. It then fitted in with something that One YMCA was actually thinking about doing, and they invited us to talk to them about how we might support their work with the project they'd actually won. And Tom and Bishop has actually worked together in terms of building out the support that we've been able to give One YMCA. I would just like to introduce Tom, who has been the driver from One YMCA side in terms of making sure that their requirements were clear, which actually helped us to kind of work with them in delivering the system that we did. So Tom, thank you very much for agreeing to speak to our audience today. And I would just like to hand the floor over to you. At the end of Tom's presentation, there'll be a chance for you to ask him questions about how things went. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks, Clyde. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us on this. My name's Tom. I am, as they've already said, the head of youth work at One YMCA. I joined the YMCA 3 years ago now, and I came over from Action for Children as part of a 2P process. And I'll go on to explain a little bit about what happened there. But I'll dive right into the presentation because that's what you're all here to see. So let me know when you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see.
Good stuff. So we've called it a Salesforce solution to youth program management, and I hope that this is useful for some of those that are managing youth services that are on the call here now. Right, there we go. So just to give a bit of context, at One YMCA, who I work for, we're part of a global network of 14,000 YMCAs. There's over 80 YMCAs in England and Wales. Our YMCA serve Hertfordshire, Bedfordshire and Buckinghamshire, so we're across 3 counties, and we're reaching thousands of people every day across multiple different services. So just to give a little bit of the context, this is kind of Herts, Beds and Bucks, the 3 counties that we serve, and you can see on the map there the various places we're located. This continues to grow every year, and we continue to have to add more and more triangles and AirPlay logos to this as we continue to expand. But that gives a sense of where we're at, and the sort of work we're doing is here. So we do family and youth work. Lots of YMCAs do multiple strands of these. I really look after the orange one there. Part of that is the youth work department, and you can see some of the logos there at the bottom, some of the kind of subsidiary charities we have and partnerships we have, and AirPlay, the logo there, the second from the right, is one of the projects that falls into our youth work. And then just in terms of our kind of reach, so this is from our last annual report, 115,000 people that we supported in our local communities, and up in the top right, you kind of get a sense of some of the things that we were doing across AirPlay and youth work. So over 2,000 young people attending our AirPlay activities last year, with 38,000 attendances. So it's a little bit out of date, and that's grown year on year, but that just kind of sets the scene a little bit. So we run across a huge amount of services. We deliver to lots of different beneficiaries. And when I came over to YMCA, what we realised when the AirPlay project landed, and I'll explain a little bit more about what AirPlay is that, sorry, that's my dog, let me just shut the door. There we go. Is that we needed a digital solution for youth work, because we were trying to shoehorn youth work into the multiple different systems that we were using across our different services. So we needed a solution that would work for AirPlay, which is the youth support programme running at RAF stations across the UK, supporting young people from ages 5 to 18, kind of open access youth work activities. And we were taking that on in 2022, and we needed to be able to manage that service across 25 locations. You can see there on the map, right up from Inverness and RAF Lossiemouth in the north to Cornwall down in the south at St Morgan. So across 3 countries, we'd put together a partnership of YMCAs to deliver this project, and we were looking at reaching around 2,500 young people. Allied to that, we needed a solution that was scalable, something that could work for our local youth clubs in Hertfordshire, Bedfordshire and Buckinghamshire, and some of the other projects that we work within, so youth mentoring, outreach work and specialist kind of targeted youth provision. So quite a big ask, really. So we needed to find for AirPlay a solution that met the needs of our commissioners. So they're the largest welfare charity for the Royal Air Force, and they've been funding AirPlay for 15 years now. So funding it for it was 11 years old by the time we took it on as a One YMCA partnership. So we needed to find a solution for them. They were keen to get further insight into, the young people and how we're supporting the families, because ultimately that's the aim of the benevolent fund, to support the serving and the ex-serving family. We needed to find a solution that would meet the needs of the 23 different RAF stations that we were going to be putting our youth workers at, dropping youth workers into military bases became, a military operation. We needed to find a solution that worked for us as the lead organisation. So we hold the contract with the commissioners, and we need to make sure that we've got a solution that evidences our KPIs. We needed to find one that worked for our delivery partners, so the 10 other YMCAs that joined us on the journey. So from YMCA Lincolnshire to YMCA Fairthorne Group, all these different YMCAs that are coming to be a part of this delivery team. And then, of course, we needed to find a solution that worked for parents, carers, and the 2,500 young people that we hope to serve. So all of that merged. We came up with a theory of change about how we were going to do the work that we were there to do, which would really support the young people and support the RAF family. So I won't go too much into detail in this, but this is just kind of to give you a flavour of some of the things that we were trying to evidence through our work with Salesforce. So you can see there on the left some of our mechanisms for change, and then ultimately on the right the long-term goal of the RAF Benevolent Fund. And so some of the outcomes and outcome indicators that we needed to address and we needed Salesforce to support us with were ones around being heard and belonging. So increasing our online status and activity with young people, increasing youth voice and youth-led social action. Some of those harder things to measure around confidence and self-esteem, belonging, and a feeling of optimism. And then improved mental and physical well-being, a reduction in stress, increased sense of safety. And you can see there how those link in with the RAF Benevolent Fund's kind of key outcomes. So the great news is what that led to is a huge big spreadsheet full of KPIs. And here they are, all listed beautifully and color-coded. And we kind of went through this KPI list, which was going to help us evidence some of those outcomes and outcome indicators. And really these ones at the top were the ones that we kind of honed in on that Salesforce could help us with. So things around registration numbers, attendance numbers, how many young people are attending our sessions, but also how many youth forums are we delivering, how many young people are attending those, and where are young people at in terms of their sense of belonging and contribution. So we needed it all, and we needed it straight away. We were currently kind of running on paper, really, taking up a lot of storage space in RAF buildings, and we needed to get everything digitized, and we needed to do it as quickly as possible. So there's kind of, was there 20 odd things there that we were trying to do, and we were trying to do them pretty quickly. So from digital membership to making sure that we had data security, to making sure that we could manage multiple services, integrate forms, manage contacts, manage contracts, and see live dashboards of where we were performing. So we narrowed that down into kind of three main topic areas, really. So from the operational topics at the bottom there, digital registration and contact management, recording participation impact, and then contract oversight and monitoring. And when I first met with Bisham, it was really a case of, right, Bisham, over to you. Let's get it done. And we're 3 years in now, and we're still working furiously, but maybe not quite as fast as the cat there. So I'll go through each of these and just show you a little bit about how we found a solution from Salesforce. So on digital registration and contact management, we really needed a solution that connected our CRM system with our website, so our external facing platform for parents and young people. So this is the kind of homepage of our website, airplayconnect.org, and when a parent first lands at an RAF base, they would ask about what provision there is for young people, and they'd be told about the Airplay project, and that might run 3 to 4 nights a week at an RAF station with various different age groups and then a range of holiday activities. So they sign in or they register for the first time, fill in a form assembly form, the registration form that you'll all be familiar with from working in youth work, and then they receive a lovely form submitted email. Thanks for completing the registration form. You can review your details here, and if you've got any questions, reach out to us. So we did the review details here because we were finding that initially a lot of people were putting in wrong information, but this gave them a chance to kind of have a look at that again. And then once they've registered, they get sent to the youth worker, and the youth worker has an opportunity to verify their membership. And so they get then assigned once they're, so the verification process for a youth worker is a kind of safeguarding function, essentially. So when someone signs up to become a member of AirPlay, once the youth worker has actually met them for the first time and says, yes, this person exists, they're a totally viable member of our youth club, they can then verify them on the system. And what that means is it then sends that contact their login details for the website, because what we didn't want to do was have anybody having access to the back end of a website that that tells you where large groups of military young people are meeting at any one time. So once they're into the back end of the website, they can see all of the stuff that's going on across the entire AirPlay network. So they can see our digital youth work program. They can see a local station news feed, which are youth workers posting events and activities and galleries and updates on. They can see their own individual profile, where they can change kind of maybe which station they want to see news from and which notifications they want to receive. So all of that stuff comes through the kind of integration with Salesforce. So whilst all that's going on, the youth workers' emails pinging off saying, yes, you've got a new member, click on this link to view their details and to verify them. So then they've got the access to all of the information on that young person. So everything from parental consents, image consents, emergency contact details, gender, age. And so once they've got all that information, they can really find out a little bit more about the young people who are going to come to their service. So as part of the process, the parents' email gets verified, so they have to click on the link, as you do with many things these days, to say, yes, this is my email, which means that when we actually can contact parents, we know that those are genuine email addresses and we're going to be able to get in touch with them. So a couple of key things on the contact record that I just wanted to point out were that we need to keep our membership details up to date for young people, and there's obvious reasons for that. We need to be able to contact them, we need to be able to safeguard them. So we created an automated renewal process. So any young person that comes to AirPlay after 12 months, their membership is up for re-registration, and the parent or carer will get an email saying, it's time to re-register your child, here's your details, which parts do you want to update, which parts are okay to leave the same. And they'll get that 2 to 3 times over the next couple of months. And if they don't re-register their young person after 3 months, then we anonymize their information. So we're not keeping information for longer than we need to, other than those things that we do keep for safeguarding purposes. So that's a couple of things that I wanted to point out. We have a re-registration process. We have the ability to anonymize the contacts, and parents have the ability to log in and anonymize their own details as well. And we also have a check on the form assembly form for duplication, so we don't end up with mum and dad registering the young person at the same time. So a couple of things on the contact record. I mean, there's a lot more to this than you can see here, but a couple of things I wanted to point out. So when the contact is created, they also, and their membership is verified, they also get a password reset link on the right-hand side there. That's for the website. So all of the information about a member's login to our external facing website is kept within Salesforce. Nothing's held in the website whatsoever, and that keeps our data really, really secure. There's also a kind of re-registration link there. So if a parent has moved, which happens really frequently in the RAF, sort of every 2 to 4 years, they can request that re-registration link and they can update their details. So that's really handy for us, because it's a big transient population. And then a couple of other things that we've added on later on down the line. So, is this young person now operating as a youth volunteer? Has this young person completed their young leader training? And we can add more and more things like that as we go on. And then for a youth worker, some of the really useful things is being able to add files to a contact record and being able to add notes. And I'll show you a little bit about how that happens in a minute. So you can see there that that this young person's maybe had a few challenges at the youth club, and there's an individual behaviour agreement. And what it means is that any of the youth workers who are working with those families can see some of that information, and it's all stored within the same system. So some of the tools that a youth worker has with the contact management is there's a kind of data hierarchy. So you can only see the young people who are registered to your centre, which is really helpful for us because we've got 11 YMCAs, 25 airplay projects, and we don't want everybody seeing all of the information for everybody. So there's the ability to create kind of list views of people. So we have list views around young people who maybe have additional needs, young people who maybe have allergies, young people whose parents haven't consented to photographs, and all of these things mean it's super simple for a youth worker to be able to find that information. It also means that they can send group emails really easily. So if they wanted to send an email to all of those young people who were checked as a young leader or a youth volunteer, they could run a simple list and go, show me all of my members who've got that status, and then send a list email to all of those contacts. The other really useful thing for youth workers is this printable view. So once you've got that list, and you're taking young people out on a field trip, or you're taking young people out on an activity, you can then click that printable view and suddenly you've got your nominal role. Super easy, no duplications, no spreadsheets needed. That makes it really easy for the youth workers. And each youth worker has their own dashboard, so they can see very simply a kind of overview of their registered members. So this one, they can see they've got 125 members at their centre. 67% of those are from RAF serving families. Some of those are civilians. Some of those are from the veteran community as well. They can see their age breakdown. They can see, how many members there are that they haven't ticked the verified box yet. How many are there that they need to go out and meet. How many members are going to get anonymised in the next few days, and maybe it's worth just chasing parents to say, are you sure you didn't want to re-register? And things like that. So really useful for the youth workers to be able to see that top-down information. So that's a little bit about the digital registration that we've done and the contact management. And I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about recording participation and impact and how we found a solution with Salesforce for that. So as I said, at the time when I came through, we'd been to One YMCA, we'd been shoehorning our youth programs into Inform, essentially a housing management system. And so this allowed us to kind of create this a little bit more with a lens on youth program management. So the first thing that we can do is we can create session schedules. So this is almost like your kind of quarterly program, your termly program, where you can create a bulk list of sessions without having to manually create them all at once. So for example, a junior youth club that is going to run every week between 4 and 6 without fail on a Wednesday night. Instead of having to create in each of those sessions individually, you can create a bulk load of them. So this is what the session schedule looks like, and the things that you can adapt in here are the service type. So for that, we might mean a junior group, an inters group, a youth forum group, a holiday activity, a mentoring program, all those different kind of services that you're able to create. You can put things in around session capacity, which is really important to us as we're trying to make kind of data-driven decisions about which clubs, which groups are able to be sustainable, where we might need to merge age groups, how many youth workers we might need on a session, the length of the sessions, the frequency there you can see at the bottom, and things like the staffing ratio. And you can either add the participants if you kind of know that these guys are going to be here every week for the next 6 weeks. You can add the participants as attendances immediately, or you can add them after the sessions. So here you see a few things here. We've added things like the venue so that we can search by specific buildings that we might be operating out of. And then at the bottom there, I'll put this in because I think this is really important, is the ability to bulk change those details. So we've created a program plan for our Inters Youth Club for 6 months, but we found that we now need to change the night. What this means is that we can go in and we can say, well, I don't need to delete all of these and recreate them. I can just go in and say, actually, I want to update it from this date to a Tuesday night, and it will then automatically update the rest of the sessions. So in terms of the actual session then, when young people have attended the session and we need to capture their attendances and we might need to take some notes, this is what the session looks like for our youth workers. And most of them are doing this directly in as part of their evaluation process after the session, usually on their mobile. So here we can mark sessions as complete or cancelled. So there on the left-hand side there, you can see the status of this session is pending. Once we've added some attendances to this, that would be marked as complete. You can see all of the details from the session. We can take the attendances, so all of the attendances, again with that kind of data hierarchy lens where they can only see the young people who are registered to their project. They can just tick the box next to them, those young people have attended, and then there's a comments box there which you can see framed in red, where they can add notes. So that might be, you know, this young person has now had their AirPlay hoodie, or this young person had some challenges tonight, or there's just something I really want to let the wider youth work team know about for the next session. And the other one that I've kind of boxed up in the top right hand corner there, I don't know why I'm pointing at it because that doesn't help at all, but is add unregistered members. So we know that not always young people are going to be registered at our sessions. So whether that's we've got, you know, youth workers out in the park doing outreach work, or whether we're maybe delivering in a school and we don't need to kind of duplicate registrations because the school hold all the contact information. What this means is that we can add registered members quite simply through the tick box, but then we can also add our unregistered members. So that's just putting in some simple details around kind of number of young people of a particular age, which means that we can capture what we do, because quite often as youth workers, capturing what we do isn't something we're particularly good at. So every attendance, every engagement with a young person counts. And for our youth workers, the reporting aspect of Salesforce has been really, really helpful. And some of this has been about reducing the kind of admin burden for our youth workers. But the things that we're asking them to report are your program plans. You know, what are you planning to do with young people this quarter? What have you done in the previous quarter? What's went well? What hasn't? Some of the compliance checks. So, you know, have you got risk assessments in place? Have there been any safeguarding instances? Have all your staff completed their induction? These are things that we can ask youth workers to report on through the process that we've set up. But we're also asking them for some of that interesting information about the work that we're doing, so case studies and social action reports. And the way that we've done this with Salesforce is we've integrated it with Form Assembly. So what that means is that our lead youth workers and some of our sessional workers can go on to a simple hyperlink on any phone or any website. They can complete some of this reporting, and that will pull through into Salesforce. So a couple of examples there. We've got an AirPlay case study, and they can put their detail. There's a lot more here where they can put kind of the background and the nature of the work and some of the outcomes. But just to show you a few things there, there's at the bottom of the AirPlay case study, you can see there's an RAF email and a YMCA email. And that's really important for us because we have kind of a matrix management system within AirPlay where we need to report to somebody on the base, who is the community development officer who looks after youth and community work for the station. We also need to report to our own YMCA. And so by putting the email addresses in there, that automates an email to their two managers who can then read that case study and then add their own commentary, which then all gets added into Salesforce. So we've got this kind of consistent feedback loop from managers. Because ultimately we want to be able to showcase some of the work that's taking place, and we want to make it as easy as possible for youth workers to do that. So this is an example of some social action and some special projects, all of which will have come through those case study forms. And they can upload photos to those as well, which really helps us when we're doing these kind of glossy reports. Relatively new kind of addition is impact stars. So we're always looking at how we measure outcomes with young people, how we track progress, how we support young people to get from position A to position B. So we've integrated impact stars within the Salesforce environment. So there's lots of different tools out there that you can use to measure impact. We use a couple of main ones, which is the Youth Star, the Triangle Youth Star, and our own Connect Star. So what we worked with Bisham and team on is creating a star function within Salesforce, where we can create our own impact tools depending on the nature of work we want. So at the moment, we're just using those, but it's been built to be scalable, so we can create new stars and we can add new impact measuring tools. So this will be connected to a young person's record, and a youth worker might have done a piece of work with a young person where they've kind of had a discussion in the youth club or on the project about where a young person feels that they're at a given time. They'll be able to take some notes from that, and they'll be able to input all of that data into Salesforce. And you can see for this young person, they've had three sessions with a youth worker. They've done this star 3 times on different dates, and we can click on and off of those to see the kind of distance traveled. But you can also click behind those to find out a little bit more information and the notes that a young person might have said within that session. And the other thing to say on this is that we've also created goals within the Salesforce system. So, for example, a young person wants to be able to develop their skills because they're looking for a particular job, and as the youth worker, you might have assigned them, or they might have come up with their own goal that they want to be able to attend a particular workshop or go out and get some work experience. So you can create those goals in the Salesforce system, linked to the Connect Star, and you can track the progress of those goals within that environment. So final section, contract oversight and monitoring. This is largely around kind of how we visualize what we do. And again, another youth work thing that we're not always great at is shouting about what we do, and we should shout about it more. And this really helps us because people take note of numbers, and then if you can add the layers of narrative and of that lovely kind of social action case studies, photos, quotes on top of that, it really helps. So this is our kind of main dashboard that we use for the project. This gives us general oversight of performance. And each of these graphs that you can see there on the right hand side is built on a report, and you can dive a little bit deeper into those in Salesforce and find out more information. So each user will be able to see this themselves on their dashboard, but they'll only be able to see the information that they're allowed to see with the data security. So for us as a central management team, being able to see at a glance some of this information really helps us kind of track where we're at. So we can see 39,000 attendances last year, and we can kind of see which demographic we're reaching. And just to pick on one graph here, so this is really important to our commissioners, is kind of how the breakdown of the RAF community is. And it's not really told us to account for it. It's often just to understand kind of how that population is starting to move around. So this is really helpful, and it shows us kind of where we're reaching the most RAF young people, which means that we can make those sort of data-driven decisions that we want to. But for our youth work managers and our youth workers, they need that local and regional picture. So we have some youth work managers might look after 5 sites, some might look after 1. At One YMCA, we deliver sort of 11 of the sites. We need to be able to see that information in the micro and the macro, so we can use the same dashboard for multiple users. So that's the same dashboard through the lens of a YMCA who manages 5 sites. And then if I flip forward, that's the same dashboard for one specific project. So that one might be for the local youth worker, whereas this one might be for the kind of manager. And then we've got a function on there where we've got email notifications for key reports. So for example, how many unverified members there are. Our youth workers get that on a monthly basis. That pings up in their email, so they're notified about that. But we could be doing that about any of these reports and notifying individuals about those things. And then this is really about measuring what matters. So another way that the dashboards have helped us is our case study dashboard. So our youth workers submit a case study every quarter, and our commissioners have always historically been on the ask for good news stories, which is their want, really, because they want to be able to showcase the work that's being done. So the case study dashboard is super helpful for them. We also have an AirPlay Connect dashboard, which tells us how the website's functioning, tells us how many kind of users are accessing different sites on the website, different pages on the website. And then we have our Impact Star dashboard, which tells us about the sense of progress for groups of young people, but also individual young people. So these case studies are all linked to some of the kind of outcome indicators that the RAF Benevolent Fund and us as YMCA wanted to be able to see. So quite often the marketing team will go, tell us about a project that's helped young people in this regard, and we can go on and say, go on this dashboard, click on the link below to see the report, find one from the station you want, all the information's already there, come back to me if you want more details. So it makes our life a lot easier, and it means that we've got case studies like this on tap essentially, so that we can go and find out about Molly and her journey from joining Airplay at age 7 to now being a young leader supporting our sessions. And then, of course, KPIs. We all love a KPI. This is a KPI dashboard for our commissioners, and they can see our progress and our percentage against our targets. So we were able to put the targets in, what we want to achieve, and how we're doing against those targets. So a few here around impact, some around participation, some around our digital program, and then things like youth empowerment below that, and youth voice. And that means in real time, in live time, they can see where we're at any given time, which brings added pressure, but brings added transparency and trust. And it means that we can do annual reports and we can pull these stats out super easy and send them to our design team to create lovely infographics like this. So coming into land now, I promise, these are the kind of 4 key benefits that we found from working with the team over at ShoNet and Salesforce. We're much better at seeing our progress. We're much better at understanding our impact. We don't have to dig for that information in the same way as that we used to. So we know that that's there. We can see the impact we're making. I've already said it a few times, but we can make those data-driven decisions. We can really look under the bonnet and find out what we're delivering, where our resources are, whether we're being efficient. The trust from our partners has increased because not only do our commissioners have access to this system, but our partners in the RAF have access to this system. They can see at any given time where we're at and the progress that we're making and the difference that we're making for young people. And then, of course, for the people who are working with the young people on a day-to-day basis, it's reduced the admin burden. We're fully digital. We don't really do a huge amount on paper anymore. So there's all the environmental benefits, but ultimately we want youth workers delivering youth work, not necessarily filling in spreadsheets. And that is it from me.
Fantastic. Well done. Thank you, Tom. Thank you for the insightful presentation. Pretty great. Now we can open the floor for some questions. Please raise your hand if you have questions, then I can unmute you. There's someone that wants to start with some questions. Now is the time. Let's get some extra insights from Tom. So Ian, let me just unmute you just a second. Yeah. Ian, let me try again. Bishop, if you... Oh,
That's
great.
it.
Fantastic.
You hear me now?
Thank you. Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, Tom. Hi. Thanks. That was excellent, actually. Really enjoyed it. I have a couple of questions, and I think you partially answered it when you showed the dashboard of the KPIs. And what I wanted to verify was that dashboard, are you collecting the data on that dashboard as part of your normal operational activities for those KPIs, or is that being done as a separate exercise that you go and put it in? So as people are doing stuff, are you building that data that produces that KPI?
Yeah, I think so, Ian. Yeah, so we'll find out whether I've understood the question when I give you the answer, I suppose. But I think those dashboards are kind of live KPI dashboards. So once we've set up the dashboards, the information that goes in here from the youth worker is changing those dashboards in the live environment. So I haven't gone in and created those based on the information I've pulled together and then created them. They're constantly updating based on our performance and the input that's coming from the youth work team.
Okay.
Is that kind of what
It
you're
does?
asking?
Yeah. I
Oh,
actually
good,
like
okay.
the way it flows through from your original strategy to the KPIs and how it's actually evidenced on the dashboard. I just wanted to see whether it was a straight through process or whether there was some
There's a little bit of
silliness
initial
somewhere.
setup that you've got to spend a little bit of time creating those in the first instance, but once it's set up, it's pretty smooth after that, and all fully automated.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right, so let's go to Ed now. So Ed, if you want to make your question now, I have enable your microphone.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, great. Thank you. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon. Thanks very much, Tom. This is great. I'm involved with the Selby Trust, and we run programs. And your presentation is an excellent, awesome kind of case study, which could map onto the kind of stuff we do. I think my only question would be about continuous improvement and continuous change. Once you achieve something so good like this, there's a temptation to just run with it. At least in my world, to run with it and not really change it. But I mean, life continues to change all the time. So how do you manage the continuous improvement of the system?
Well,
whether it's at the front end or the back end or the kind of data that you derive from it. I'm sure, I mean, you have various stakeholders who might be looking for different kinds of information. One year they might be interested in one particular kind of information, and then another year they're interested in something else that you probably don't already record, or you probably don't already report on. So how easy is it for you to update, upgrade, enhance the system?
Well, we're very fortunate that we have a vocal project. So we have youth workers who are happy to tell us what isn't working as well as what is working, and we have commissioners who are always after new information. So we do have to be relatively agile with being able to update this. And what you're seeing there is the result of 2 to 3 years consistent upgrading, amending, testing what works. And so we haven't landed on the solution straight away by any stretch of the imagination. Some things like duplicate registrations were a kind of long-standing issue for about 3 to 4 months until we realised that we needed to put something in, and then Bisham had to kind of retrospectively do some work on some of that. So I feel like we're at a place now where the majority of the kinks have been worked through. And we can put developments on. So things like the impact star, we're looking at a process of kind of automation for that, where young people attend a certain amount of sessions, and that means that the youth worker kind of gets a notification say it's time to do their sort of first impact star. These things are much easier now because of some of the pitfalls that we experienced in the first 6 to 8 months. But yeah, we've definitely got a vocal project who will tell us when something isn't working, and we also ask as well. Bye, Tim. Thanks.
So before, just to jump into Martina, that is the person that wants to make a next question, I just want to let you all know that we may run a little bit of time, but would be great if you could stay with us. So so Martina, yeah, your microphone is on.
Lovely, thank you. I manage a youth charity in Portsmouth, and it seems like all the problems I'm having, this could solve everything. So I'm quite blown away from the project. So I have a few questions. Some of the activities that we do, we have a local building, but some of the activities that we do are in different locations and with different youth workers. So what kind of tools, is it with an iPad, is it with their phones, do they need a laptop to actually register everything, or how does it work?
No, it's a good question. It can be from a lot of this is done from mobiles. So, or tablets. I mean, the majority of our lead youth workers have a laptop and will tend to do this on the laptop just because, you know, there's a bit more room to navigate. But some of the simple things around kind of adding participants to sessions, you know, sending list emails and things like that can all be done from a mobile phone. So, you know, whether they're out in the community delivering or whether they're, you know, in their building delivering, there's an opportunity to do this on site. So I haven't found too many issues with the mobile platform.
Perfect.
It's relatively intuitive, to be honest.
Nice. And in regards to, because I'm very keen to actually start all of this because it will solve my life, if I'm honest with you. Prices and how can I move forward with this?
I think that's a me question. I'll throw it over to Connor.
Okay.
Martin, I can get in touch with you after all, so we can have a quick call. Yeah.
Lovely,
If
thank
you don't mind, like just to fill it out, the survey as well, because there I can have your like all the details, what you need, and then we can arrange a separate call
Perfect,
where
thank you.
our team will explain you in more details.
Lovely.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, so let's go to Hardish then. Sorry, Hardish, I think you needed to turn on your mic.
Sorry, I said hi, Tom.
Hi.
Just a couple of questions. Firstly, you said you went on a 3-year journey. Has it taken you 3 years to implement Salesforce, or do you mean you've been 3 years in post?
No, sorry. So we've been the Airplay project has come over to the YMCA 3 years ago, and that was when we kind of started the youth program relationship with ShoNet and Salesforce. So what you're seeing is the result of 3 years of developments, but the amount of development has kind of reduced, you know, year on year because the main bulk of this work was done in the first 12 months, and then we've really been kind of tweaking.
So you've been developing it further over the past 2 years.
Yeah. So we were using it from almost the get-go. I think we were in post and we were using it within the first month, I think. So, you know, we had to sort of learn on the fly, so to speak, but that's okay.
Yeah. In terms of your own internal sort of IT support, I mean, do you need a large team of data analysts to input the data and maintain Salesforce at that level, or are you
it's just me really.
Just you. Okay.
So obviously the youth workers locally input the data, so they do that themselves, but in terms of setting up the reports and the administration access, there are a few of us, but largely that stuff's sat with me and one other person. So yeah, it's not a massive operation by any stretch of the imagination.
No. And have you integrated it with your financial systems, or do you intend to integrate it?
I don't think our financial systems are ready. Our financial systems are super complicated. There's definitely things that we want to do around managing payments and all of those sort of aspects that would be useful for us as a youth work team. But we don't. They're not kind of pressing because what the systems that we've got in place are working, and we could start to integrate those, and you know, that might be the long-term goal. But I don't think there's any ambition to do that in the short term.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. All right. So let me just go to Pamela. So Pamela, you can turn on your microphone.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Pamela Franklin from a group called the Caribbean Social Forum. We deal with the elderly in opposed to the youths. It's just the same thing, but just the opposite direction. And right now we do a lot of things using Excel. And we started with just 12 people, so Excel was really great. But now we've got nearly 1,000 people on our Excel, and that's quite a lot of people to manage up and down all the time on the spreadsheets, especially if you don't know anything like pivot tables. So I think what you showed about the youth, I can identify for the things for the elderly people that we deal with. One of the things that happens is that we've given all our members now a membership card that's got a QR code and a barcode on it. And one of the things that'd be really helpful is when people walk in, they could swipe their card and that would register that they're there. Whereas at the moment, they have to sign a bit of paper, and as people get older, they get arthritis in their hands, so signing is quite complicated. And not only that, we have to try to work out what the signature is saying, which is almost like impossible sometimes. So it'd be really great that once they've got a card and we've allocated a card to each person, to be able to use the barcode to swipe people in from a desktop so people can come in and we know that they're there. And also we do a lot of app trips, and quite often they might want to book a trip. But right now we do it on a paper receipt that we've got to keep all our receipt books. And what we'd like to be able to do to put all the different trips onto the database, so that if they're going to the theatre and they're booked it and it costs £10, we can then swipe their card for that trip, pay their £10 via text. I know that we've got a financial record of how much they've paid out, a database of how many people's actually going to the theatre, and who's ever in charge of that particular group could just get a listing. And I think you will call them youth workers, but we just have someone that's like companions that go out with a group. But that group could be anything from 10 people to 100 people. Like when we go to Royal Albert Hall, you could talk about 200 people going to Royal Albert Hall, and we have to sit down literally and write 200 receipts. Whereas it'd be a lot easier, we could swipe the information on there and to be able to wipe it out. And we would like to put everyone's picture on the site as well. So listening to what you talked about the youth, I can see the things that we can actually do, but where yours is youth for the young, ours is youth for the older people, and there's still got a lot of activities that has to be done. So I thought I wasn't going to come on this. I thought the youth, I'm dealing with older people, but I'm really glad I've done, because you've done it justice. So thank you so much for sharing. I thank you, Clyde Williams, for inviting me.
Thanks, Pamela. I think the membership's something that we've had a few conversations, Bisham and I, about whether or not young people get a card and scan in, and the way that you're talking. We haven't really gone down that route, because I think that there's something tangible that young people quite like about signing in on paper at our youth clubs. But it's not off the cards by any stretch of the imagination. It's definitely possible. The stuff around the payments, I mean, that's probably more Bisham and Clyde, but I imagine we do that through our fundraising, which we also use Salesforce for. So I imagine that's relatively well established.
Now, one other question. Sometimes we might work with, say, for example, we work with a hotel that give our members a discount. They get the discount when they show the membership card, but I have no way of tracking where they've actually used it and when, except I know the hotel, as they write to me. Is there any way that we could do an online presence where if someone comes in and use that card, say in, let's say, the Hilton Hotel, that record could be somehow downloaded to us, so we know how many people's utilising the membership card that we might have with the Hilton, or we may have with a local gym that we've made arrangements with. It's going a bit far, but I just thought might as well throw it in there whilst I'm here.
I think Bisha maybe can give an overview, but also we can book a one-to-one session and explain you that in more detail.
Yeah. Okay,
maybe,
thank you so much.
maybe later,
Thank
right, Bisha? Maybe we can get in touch with you,
Certainly,
Pamela.
certainly. We can have a
All
clear
right.
discussion.
Thank you.
We have one more question on our chat, so I think Bisha, if you don't mind, just to read through.
Yes, that's from Laura. I just got it. Thanks so much, Tom. It was fantastic session. And hello, ShoNet team. Nice to see you. There's a lot of noise. That's why she's not using the mic. We have been using SF for 8 years at our organization, and she works for Kara, and have over the years expanded the scope. Now I am reviewing how we use our current setup, and I wanted to ask if you use AI tools at all. So that's for Tom, I believe. And for ShoNet team, we will get in touch soon. Yep.
Well, we're not using AI at the moment, but it's not off the table. I think we need to understand a little bit about how we want to use this. Ultimately, it needs to be used in a way that benefits our beneficiaries, but also our employees. So I wouldn't want to run into it, with the blinkers on. We need to first understand what the need is, and then understand how AI can support us. But those are conversations that I do have with Bisham in our fortnightly calls about what we can do to make the system work even better and smarter.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you, everyone. So, Tom, we had some people that couldn't attend. They sent me over some questions. Most of them you have to respond throughout your presentation, but there is one, the last one, that I want to make to wrap up this session as well. And I don't want to hold a lot of people on this session as well, but let's go there. So what advice would you give to other nonprofits just beginning their digital transformation journey?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think if I was to flip myself back 3 years to the beginning, I would have understood my requirements as much as I possibly could at the very, very start. Because you don't know what you don't know, but it would be good to really have a think about what it is that you actually want the system to do for you. So yeah, that's the bit I would have spent more time on. We were sort of a little bit stuck for time and we had to get going, and that's meant a little bit more retrospective kind of change. But yeah, that would be my advice.
Oh, thank you very much. So I thought it was the last one, but we have Isra here. Hopefully I have pronounced your name correctly.
Yeah, that's fine. It's a very short question.
Yeah.
Have you had any of your team members who are reluctant to enter the information? And if the answer is yes, how have you responded to that? And with what success?
I think there's general reticence from people, particularly youth workers, around digital stuff. We know that it's not there necessarily everybody's skill set. That's not, they got in the job generally to do face-to-face work with young people rather than spend time on systems. So I think, but what I do think is that once people have been on and they've realised the time it's going to save them, they've pretty quickly bought into it, because this is helping them save time and effort, so that they can put that effort into their program planning, into their relationships, into the things that they value much more than putting numbers in a spreadsheet. So I think those fears have been allayed, but there'll still be always one or two people who we need to promote that with, and the best people to promote that with are their peers. And so once we've got people brought into this, they tend to be able to bring each other along on the journey. So it hasn't been a massive issue for us, if I'm honest. I think people were looking for a solution, and we were getting 70% right at the start. Now we're getting more like 90 to 95% right. We know we want to get closer to 100% right, and we'll continue to work on that.
Thank you.
Oh, fantastic. So it was a very great session, and with all the interaction. Thank you, everyone, for your time. And again, if you don't mind, just to fill it out, just take a few moments to fill it out. The survey is just like 4 questions there. And so thank you all, and see you next time. Thank you. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.